Beatles almost broke up before they recorded a single album. Coca-Cola almost went to market as a completely different drink. And the movie that saved Hollywood in 1977 was rejected by every major studio except one. You've spent your entire life with these things, and you had no idea how close they all came to never existing. These are 10 things that almost didn't happen, and how different everything would look if they hadn't. Number 1. WD-40. The name WD-40 stands for Water Displacement, 40th Attempt. They failed 39 times. 39. In most industries, that number is called a canceled project, and everyone updates their resume. These people just made a 40th batch and tried again. The formula that finally worked was so simple the company refused to patent it. Patenting it meant filing paperwork. Filing paperwork meant someone could read the ingredients. Someone reading the ingredients might realize there was nothing magical in there at all. So they kept it a secret and still haven't told anyone to this day. It was never supposed to leave the factory. It was missile rust protection spray. Then workers started stealing cans to take home because it fixed everything they owned. Squeaky hinges, stuck bolts, rusty bikes. The company noticed the theft and made the only logical decision available. They started charging for it. WD-40 is now sold in 176 countries. It's in an estimated 80% of American homes. The company is worth over $2 billion. A missile spray that took 39 failures to invent became one of the most common household products on Earth because workers couldn't stop stealing it. Number 2. Superglue. In 1942, a scientist accidentally invented the most adhesive substance in human history and threw it in the bin because it kept sticking to things he didn't want it to stick to. This is a man whose entire job was to make things stick together. He invented something that stuck to everything perfectly and decided that was the problem. 9 years later, he was working on a completely different military project and accidentally invented it again. Same substance, same result, bonded to everything it touched instantly and permanently. He recognized it immediately and threw it away for the second time, because apparently once wasn't enough of a lesson. A third researcher dug it out, realized what they were sitting on, and brought it to market. Doctors now use a version of it to close wounds instead of stitches. It's in a drawer in basically every home on Earth. The greatest adhesive ever created was thrown in the bin twice, by the one man on Earth whose entire job was making things stick together. Number 3. The Beatles. In January 1962, a man at Decca Records listened to the Beatles and passed. His reasoning: guitar groups are on the way out. That one sentence made him the most mocked executive in music history. They still quote it today. At his funeral, they probably quoted it. So what did he do next? He signed the Rolling Stones out of pure panic. The man who declared guitar groups dead spent the rest of his career signing guitar groups. You genuinely cannot make that up. Meanwhile, every other label in Britain said no to the Beatles. Door after door. Their manager dragged demos around London for months, getting laughed out of every meeting. EMI was basically the last option on Earth. The producer they got assigned mostly made comedy records. Not exactly the guy you'd picture changing music history. He sat through the audition, hated it, and told them straight. When he finished, he asked if they had any complaints. John Lennon looked him up and down and said, "Well, there's your tie for a start." The producer laughed and signed them anyway. Later it was said it was the nerve of that one line that did it. A band confident enough to insult the guy holding the pen had something he wanted. They sold over 1 billion records. The executive who called guitars dead handed all of it to the guy who made comedy records because of a joke about a tie. Number 4. Star Wars. In 1973, George Lucas pitched Star Wars to every major studio in Hollywood. Universal said no. United Artists said no. They all said no. The man had a movie about space wizards and laser swords, and nobody wanted it. 20th Century Fox said yes for one reason. The executive in charge liked Lucas's last movie and greenlighted it almost out of personal loyalty. The rest of the boardroom thought he'd lost his mind. Then Fox made the single worst business decision in Hollywood history. They gave Lucas the full merchandising rights. Toys, posters, lunchboxes, Halloween costumes, everything. They handed it over like it was garbage because nobody on Earth thought a space movie was going to sell lunchboxes. Star Wars made $775 million. The merchandise made billions more. Fox left more money on the table than most countries have in their treasury. Lucas was so convinced it would bomb, he skipped the premiere entirely and went to Hawaii. The movie that saved Hollywood was opened by nobody. Number 5. Coca-Cola. In 1885, a pharmacist in Atlanta invented a syrup he believed could cure headaches, morphine addiction, and general exhaustion. He sold it at a soda fountain for 5 cents a glass and called it Coca-Cola. The active ingredient was cocaine, not trace amounts. Not a hint. Actual cocaine, listed on the label, marketed as a feature. For the first 17 years of its existence, Coca-Cola was a cocaine drink sold to people who thought they were buying medicine. When the public backlash hit, the company panicked. Removing the cocaine meant the drink tasted completely different. Sales collapsed. Shareholders were furious. The entire business nearly folded overnight because they took the drugs out. They survived by doubling down on sugar and caffeine and marketing it as a refreshment instead of a cure. A complete reinvention born entirely out of desperation. Today, Coca-Cola is the most recognized brand on the planet, sold in every country except two, worth over $250 billion. Built on a cocaine recipe that nearly destroyed it the moment they tried to make it legal. Number 6. The microwave. In 1945, an engineer walked past a radar machine, and the chocolate bar in his pocket melted. A normal person files a maintenance report and goes home. This guy stepped directly in front of the radar to see what it would do to him personally. That is the founding moment of the microwave oven. His company wasn't trying to build a kitchen appliance. They were building weapons. The most common household device in America was invented by accident during military research by a man whose immediate response to unexplained radiation was to get closer to it. The first microwave weighed 750 pounds, cost the equivalent of $15,000. It was the size of a refrigerator, and only restaurants could afford one. As far as launch strategies go, this one needed some work. It took 20 years to shrink it down to something a normal person could fit in their kitchen. By the 1980s, nearly every home in America had one. The thing reheating your leftovers at 2 in the morning exists because one man melted a chocolate bar and made the single worst safety decision in the history of food science. Number 7. The Post-it note. In 1968, a scientist at a major manufacturing company was trying to invent the strongest glue ever made. He failed completely. What he created instead was an adhesive so weak it could barely hold 2 pieces of paper together. You could peel it off with one finger. It left no residue. It stuck to nothing permanently. By every measure, this was a disaster. The company threw it in a drawer and forgot about it for 5 years. A glue that doesn't stick is not a product. It's a mistake. Then a colleague grabbed the useless adhesive, put it on a piece of paper, and used it to bookmark his hymn book at church so the pages wouldn't fall out. The bookmark kept falling out. He kept sticking it back. It never damaged the page. He went back to work on Monday and told the scientist his failed glue was actually the most useful thing he'd ever used. The Post-it note has been in continuous production since 1980. The company sells 50 billion of them a year. It is one of the most profitable office products ever made. The strongest glue ever invented is in someone's garage right now. The weakest one is on every desk on Earth. Number 8. Viagra. In the early 1990s, Pfizer was testing a new pill designed to treat high blood pressure and chest pain. It didn't work. Hearts were not being helped. The trial was a failure by every clinical measure, and Pfizer was preparing to shut the whole thing down. Then the researchers noticed something strange. The male patients in the trial were refusing to return their unused pills. Not forgetting. Refusing. Men who knew the heart medication hadn't worked were specifically asking to keep the leftovers. Pfizer figured out why pretty quickly. Viagra launched in 1998 and became the fastest-selling drug in pharmaceutical history. $1.7 billion in sales in its first year alone. Doctors wrote 40,000 prescriptions in the first 2 weeks. The pill that was supposed to fix hearts was accidentally fixing something else entirely, and nobody who had taken it was complaining. The worst heart medication ever tested turned out to be the most successful accidental discovery in pharmaceutical history. Number 9. Play-Doh. In the 1950s, a company in Ohio invented a putty designed to clean soot off wallpaper. It didn't work, and when heating systems modernized and walls stopped getting dirty, the product became completely pointless. A putty that cleans walls nobody needs to clean is not a business. It's a mistake with packaging. The company was finished. Done. Except a nursery school teacher got her hands on some, threw it at a classroom full of bored kids, and watched them lose their minds over it. She called the company and told them what happened. The company looked at their dying wallpaper cleaner and made the only decision they had left. They dyed it 3 colors and told the world it was a toy. Play-Doh has made over $3 billion since 1956. It's in the National Toy Hall of Fame. There is not a single human alive who grew up in the last 60 years who hasn't touched it. A product that failed at its only job became one of the most successful toys ever made because a teacher had a room full of bored kids and a company had absolutely nothing to lose. Number 10. Nike. In the early 1960s, the man who built the most famous shoe company on Earth was selling shoes out of the trunk of his car at track meets. No store, no brand, no logo. Just a guy in a parking lot with a box of Japanese running shoes and absolutely no backup plan. His bank called his loans 3 times trying to shut him down. Their reasoning was airtight. Every single dollar he made, he immediately spent on more shoes, which from the outside looks completely insane. From the inside, he apparently considered it a business strategy. His own accountant told him to quit. He maxed out every credit card he owned and kept going anyway. Not because he had a plan, because he was too stubborn to stop. Nike is now worth $32 billion. The swoosh is the most recognized logo on the planet. The bank that tried to pull the plug 3 times never got so much as a thank you. The most famous shoe company in history was one banker's signature away from being a parking lot memory.